Hi everybody, welcome to the show. It's the Nedcast. Ned Rocks, the podcast. Now, what I want to talk about today is ethics. And there's a really interesting ethical problem called the trolley problem. And I'm sure most of you guys out there have heard of it, but just in case you're not familiar with it, you've got this trolley that's barreling down this track, and there are five dudes. Well, five human beings. Could be women, I suppose. But okay, so they're tied to the tracks, and trolley is barreling down on them, and it's gonna run them over. They're all gonna die. But you've got an option. There's a little switch right here that could turn it onto a secondary track. But the trick is, on the secondary track, there's one person tied now. So, would you sacrifice one person to save five? That's the question. That's the trolley problem. Now, one of the things that I think is so interesting about this is so there are different ways of categorizing the different theories of ethics. There are lots of ethical theories out there. But an important way to categorize them is you've got consequentialism versus deontology. So, and consequentialism is pretty simple. It's the consequences of your actions that matter. It's consequentialism. That's all that matters. It's the consequences. Now, on the other hand, deontology says that it's the rules that matter. The only thing that matters is the rules. So, now the other big type of ethics out there is what they call virtue ethics. And virtue ethics is basically an ethical act is the act that an ethical person would do, basically. It's funny because I don't know where to put it. I feel like you could be a virtue ethics who also believed in consequentialism. However, you could be a deontological virtue ethicist. So I almost feel like you could be a person where, well, the most ethical person would be consequentialist, and you could be someone who says, well, the most ethical person would be deontologist. So I feel like it's sort of, the question of virtue ethics is a separate question from consequentialism versus deontology. But so virtue ethics is another sort of a wild card that's thrown in there. So, just talking with people about ethical problems, it seems to me that most people, when they think about ethics, think from a deontological standpoint. They tend to think that the rules are what's most important. And for some reason that I don't know, but I've always been more consequentialist. Always, from when I was a little kid, I always thought, no, it's the consequences of your acts that matter. But the act itself is completely ridiculous. So a very good example of deontology is Immanuel Kant. He said that Kant said that deontology is the rules that matter, and the rules only matter because there's the rules. So one of the rules is you should never lie. So, and then the consequentialists will come up and they'd say things like, well, what if you had to lie to prevent someone's gruesome death? Like, what if an axe murderer, this is the axe murderer question, what if an axe murderer were coming and, he's got an axe out and he's like, nice and sharp. And he says, hey, do you know where John Smith lives? And you happen to know that John Smith is your neighbor and he lives next door. Well, if you were to say, if you were to tell the truth, yeah, that's my neighbor, he lives next door, right over there, then that would lead to him being gruesomely killed. So, but So, a consequentialist would say in that situation you have to be like, Smith, I don't know Smith. You know Smith? I don't know Smith. So, a consequentialist would be, would maybe bend the truth a little bit. But deontological person would say, no, I can never tell a lie. John Smith lives right next door. If you see John, tell him goodbye for me. So, okay, deontology. And so I'm very consequentialist. I'm not really concerned with the rules that much. But other people are much more deontological. I think, oh, lying is bad. You shouldn't do things, and people like the phrase "the ends justify the means." To me, of course, the ends justify the means. I mean, if they do, if they actually do justify the means, then of course they do. But a lot of people are like, oh no, you can't do a bad thing in service of something good, which I've always had trouble understanding. But a lot of people think that way. So, what I think is so interesting about the trolley problem is that when it comes to the trolley problem, most people pick the consequentialist answer. So most people would say, well, you should divert the trolley that's barreling down the track. You should divert it towards the unfortunate person who's on the alternate track. Because, well, that's what you should do. So most people would say that you should focus on consequences in that action. Killing one person is better than killing 5 people. Except possibly a deontologist who would say, well, the rule is you don't do something that would cause someone to die. You don't kill someone. So if that's the rule, you have to let this darn train barrel down and kill a bunch of people. Now, one of the things that another sort of interesting wrinkle to this problem, it's really the same problem, but it's a different way to express it, is the organ harvester problem. So let's suppose that you've got 5 people and they each need an organ. You got one dude needs a heart, 2 guys need a kidney, 2 guys need a lung, and all these people have this very rare blood type. And so you're trying to find organs for these people, and you happen to notice that in your tissue type database or whatever, you happen to notice that there is a guy who is just passing through town. He's a tourist. He's kind of a wanderer. He doesn't have any family in the area. No one really noticed he was gone, and he has the perfect tissue type for all of these 5 people. So should you kill this guy and then take his organs and distribute them to the 5 people? Now, the interesting thing about this, like I said, I've always been very consequentialist from when I was a young kid. Yet, for me, in the question of in the organ harvester problem, I am always my visceral reaction. Oh no, you shouldn't kill someone to harvest their organs. That's horrible. I mean, that's vampiric. So my own, even though I'm very consequentialist and my ethical intuition is very consequentialist, in that particular case, my intuition is the exact opposite of what a consequentialist would do. But why is that? Why is it that most people would divert the trolley on to kill one person, and then, but they wouldn't harvest one person's organs to 5 separate people? Why would they do that? Why do people do that? There are a number of different theories as to why. One theory is the idea of the active role versus passive role. That in this, you're really just letting, you're really kind of taking a passive role in the whole thing. You're flipping the trolley onto the other track, but you're not, you're really just letting them die. But with the organ harvester case, you're taking a much more active role, and you're actively killing someone in order to save 5 people. There's some support for this in an alternative to the trolley problem, which is the so-called fat man problem, where the idea is that the trolley would run over these 5 people because the 5 people are slim, relatively slim, I should say, but So there's a, like a little ledge over here over the trolley that's rolling down, and you're on the ledge, and there's a there is no other person over here. There's just a track and 5 people in the trolley barreling down, but there's this massively fat man on the ledge, and you're on the ledge too, and so you think, well, that guy is so fat that uh, as an aside, what I don't like about this problem is why are they picking on fat guys so much? What the heck is there? Who came up with this idea? Anyway, that's a total that's a digression. So you've got anyway, you got this fat guy who's there, and so would you push him off the ledge so that he would fall in front of the trolley? And this guy's so fat that he would actually stop the trolley. So most people, to the question of pushing the fat man off the ledge, most people say no. You shouldn't push the fat man off the ledge. You should, instead let the trolley go on and kill 5 people. I'd say I'm not. I really don't know why most people would say that. And I don't know why most people would talk about harvesting organs. Would not harvest the organs. I can think of another. See, the idea that it's the active versus passive role really doesn't make any sense to me, because if you're switching over, if you've got a switch in front of you, clunk, and you're going to switch the trolley onto the other tracks, it's like you're taking an active role there. You are doing an active role. And the other thing is, in the organ harvester problem, you're kind of not taking an active role. Well, I mean, you're taking an active role in the guy's death, but you had nothing to do with these sick people who need the organs. I mean, for all you know, the reason they need the organs is that the same guy who tied all these people to this track, he's some demented ethicist, and he also ruined all these people's organs in order to create another ethical dilemma. So it could have been the same guy who did both things. So it's not. The entire idea of it being active versus passive, I don't really think so. I'll tell you one thing though. One thing that struck me about the organ harvester problem is that, to me, it sounds kind of disgusting, doesn't it? Doesn't that sound kind of disgusting? You're gonna have to rip someone open and rip out their organs and distribute them to like 5 people. I'm saying it sounds like something a vampire would do, or like a monster movie, Frankenstein type of idea. It's pretty disgusting. And so that made me think that maybe part of why you get this sort of ethical intuition is because of the inherent disgust in the idea of, killing someone and tearing out all of their organs while their organs are still alive. Maybe that's part of the reason that that the trolley problem is so. The trolley problem is, that people's responses to the organ harvester problem are so different from their responses to the trolley problem. It's an interesting idea. Well, anyway, that's all for today. Thanks for listening. And, I'm a little bit late on this podcast, so I'm going to try to do an additional podcast or something this weekend. I've been thinking about starting another side project called Ned Builds. There's a bunch of projects around the house that I've been meaning to build. I've got all these ideas to build them, but I've never actually built any of them. So, this weekend I might do a Ned Builds. So, look out for that, and again, thanks for listening, and see you later. Bye.